How explicit do you need to be these days? Like, do publishers want more physicality, or are they like, no, that's fine, kissing, that's fine?
I've never had I've always just put in what I thought was appropriate and what I wanted to, and when I say appropriate, I mean for the story in that moment, not for the audience. And I've never, in every book I've done, whether it's been sex or violence or something else, I've had one moment in there where I've wondered if I would get pulled up. And I must say, in every case I've spoken to my publisher about it, they've been like, yeah, go for it, more if you want. So I've certainly never felt constrained, but I can say that I have a good friend in the US who is a very, very successful author over there in young adult, and her book was being sold into US stores, and a buyer for a major US store asked the rep, is there sex in this? And the rep said, sort of, at which point the buyer lowered her order. And then the rep, attempting to salvage the situation, said, oh, it's an assault scene, it's not consensual. And the order went back up again. Oh. The implication being that at any level of violence was fine, and sexual assault was apparently fine, but God forbid the kids be enjoying themselves. And that took me aback and probably led to me putting in, just because I'm like this, more consensual, enjoyable scenes in my books than were there before. But yeah.
Well, I guess, sorry, Will, you wanted to say something?
I was just going to say the best bit of advice my editor gave me for my last book was, why is this here? And every time I put anything, it was why it was here. Can you completely justify it? And if you can completely justify it there in terms of the story, as Amie said, then anything is appropriate, really.
There is that argument around sexual violence that you represent what is happening in kids' lives, and sadly that is a feature of kids' lives in much greater numbers than is, it's terrible. Do you need to put that in though? That's a really interesting story.
I think that if you're handling sexual violence in a book, you need to be very careful that it is not there purely to provide some kind of peril, or that it is not there to be the journey that your character has come through in order to now do something else. I think it absolutely needs to be in books, and it's worthy of its own story. I think authors like Laurie handle that incredibly well, and I think that it's absolutely worthy of its own stories. And I just think you need to be careful you don't use it as a trick, or a shortcut to something.
There's great online criticism about it where particularly movies coming out of America, have been criticised for using it as a shortcut to characterisation, or just saying, okay, this character is distant. Oh, it's because of a sexual assault. And it's just really, it undermines that experience, and it doesn't really explore it. It's just a way of getting a character from A kind of person to C kind of person. So it's just that thing of making sure that it's true to the experience and not just a plot point, basically.